He wanted to ask, to demand the truth. But fear held her back. What if he didn't mean what she thought he meant? What if she was projecting her feelings onto his words, reading too much into them? Instead, she forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You'll make new friends, Daniel. You'll be fine." The words tasted bitter like betrayal, but it was safer than saying what her heart wanted to scream. Daniel turned back toward her slowly, his gaze steady, almost searching. "That's not what I want, Em." Her stomach flipped. "Then what do you want?" she asked, her voice trembling despite her attempt to keep it even. He didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened, his chest rising and falling as though the weight of his silence pressed down on him. His eyes softened, though, lingering on her face with a tenderness that made her knees weak. Emily shifted, her hands twisting together nervously. The memories of their years together surged through her mind. The way he always walked her home after late nights. The way he teased her for stealing his fries but always gave her the last one anyway. The way he remembered little things about her that no one else noticed. She thought of the time she got sick, how he sat by her side with soup and silly jokes until she laughed through her fever. All those little things, the things she had told herself meant nothing, now burned in her memory like clues she had. Her throat tightened. Could she really have been blind to his feelings all this time? Or was this just the cruel trick of a heart desperate to believe what it wanted? The silence between them thickened. She tried to look away, but his eyes wouldn't let her. Finally, Daniel spoke again, his voice quieter this time, almost as if he were confessing to the air itself. "I keep wondering if this job, this move is worth it. If leaving everything I know, everything I care about." He hesitated, his gaze flickering toward her before dropping to the floor. "If leaving you is worth it." Emily's breath hitched audibly. She gripped the edge of the box in front of her, needing something solid to hold on to. Her whole body felt like it was trembling. Every nerve awake. Her mind screamed at her to say something, to ask him what he really meant, but the words tangled inside her chest. Daniel didn't wait for her reply. Instead, he bent down and grabbed another stack of books, his movements sharp, almost restless. "Forget it," he muttered. "I shouldn't have said anything. It's not fair to you." Emily's eyes stung with tears she didn't want him to see. She stood up slowly, her legs unsteady, and crossed the room toward him. "Daniel," she said softly. He froze but didn't look up. "Why would you say it's not fair?" She pressed gently. "If it's the truth, it's not unfair. It's just real." His shoulders rose and fell in a deep breath. He set the books down carefully, almost too carefully, as if the wrong movement might shatter the fragile moment. Then he turned, finally meeting her eyes again, and what she saw in them nearly undid her. Longing, fear, love, and an ache that mirrored her own. Emily's chest ached with the weight of all the years they had kept silent. She wanted to close the distance between them, to say the words she had locked away for so long. But before she could, Daniel shook his head and stepped back slightly. "Emily." His voice cracked, rough with emotion. "You mean more to me than I can explain. But I'm leaving. And if I say too much now, I don't know if either of you still be able to handle it." The words sliced through her, equal parts hope and heartbreak. He was holding something back. She could feel it, taste it in the way he spoke, see it in the way his hand twitched as though it wanted to reach for hers. But didn't. Emily swallowed hard, blinking back tears. She wanted to beg him to finish, to finally say the words she had waited years to hear. But Daniel's eyes darkened with restraint. He pressed his lips together, as though sealing his own heart shut. And then, Just when she thought he might break, might finally tell her everything, he turned abruptly, grabbing the roll of tape from the counter. "Let's just keep packing," he said, his voice distant, forced. Emily stood frozen, her hands trembling at her sides. Her heart screamed, but her lips stayed silent. The moment had slipped away, leaving her with only questions and the unbearable ache of what might have been. And yet, deep down, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Daniel was hiding something. Something big. The room was different now. It wasn't just half empty because of the boxes. It felt half empty because of everything left unsaid. Emily sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at the neat pile of shirts she had folded, though she couldn't remember folding them. Her hands moved out of habit, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. Daniel's words replayed over and over in her head. "Leaving you feels like I'm tearing out the best part of my life." She pressed her lips together, her chest aching. Did he really mean it the way she hoped he did? Or was it just the stress of moving, the fear of change, making him sentimental? Daniel was pacing now, back and forth across the room, his steps restless, uneven. He stopped once in a while, rubbed the back of his neck, then started again. Emily watched him quietly, her heart tightening at every movement. He looked like a man fighting himself, torn between leaving and staying, between silence and confession. Finally, he stopped near the coffee table, his hands braced against its edge. His head hung low, as though the weight of his thoughts pressed him down. "Emily," he said, his voice rough. She looked up quickly, her breath catching. "Yes?" He turned slowly, his eyes meeting hers. For the first time, there was no wall, no mask, just him, raw, open, and terrified. "I can't leave without telling you something," he said. Emily's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Her throat went dry. Every fibre of her being told her that this was the moment, the one she had dreamed of and dreaded all at once. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. "What is it?" Daniel hesitated, his jaw tightening, his hands curling into fists. He looked away for a second, as though gathering the courage to jump into unknown waters. When his gaze returned to her, it was filled with something she had never seen so clearly before: love, aching and unrestrained. "The truth is," he exhaled sharply, "every chapter of my life that I've loved has had you in it. Every memory I carry, every story I tell, somehow comes back to you. And the thought of building a life without you in it," his voice cracked raw, "it feels impossible." Emily's eyes filled with tears. She pressed her hand to her mouth, afraid she would break apart if she let herself breathe too deeply. He stepped closer, slowly, as though afraid she might vanish. "If he moved too quickly, I thought I could leave and just carry our friendship with me, like a keepsake. But I can't. You're not just my friend, Emily. You're the person I think about when I wake up, the one I want to tell good news to, the one I don't stop worrying about when you're upset. You're the one." Emily's tears slipped down her cheeks, hot and silent. For years she had dreamed of hearing these words, had begged the universe for some sign that he felt the same. And now, here they were, spoken out loud, trembling in the half-empty room. Her voice trembled as she finally managed to speak. "Daniel, why didn't you ever tell me?" His lips curved into a pained smile. "Because I was scared. Because I thought if I said it out loud, I'd lose you. And losing you as a friend felt worse than keeping quiet." He shook his head, his eyes burning into hers. "But now, I'm about to lose you anyway. And I can't leave without telling you that I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air, heavy and beautiful, filling every corner of the room. Emily's body shook with emotion. She wanted to throw herself into his arms, to tell him she had loved him all along. But fear still lingered, wrapping around her like cold chains. What if she followed him and it didn't work? What if she gave him her heart completely, only to watch him let go one day? Daniel stepped closer, his hand brushing hers, gentle but certain. Say something, Em. Please. Her lips parted, her heart hammering. Daniel, She stopped. The words caught in her throat. Memories rushed through her all at once. The night he stayed awake talking with her until dawn when her father was sick. The way he always noticed when she needed coffee before she even asked. The way he hugged her just a little tighter when she was having a bad day. All of it screamed the same truth she had been too afraid to admit. She had been his all along. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. You don't know how long I've waited to hear you say that. Daniel's eyes widened, a mixture of relief and disbelief washing over his face. You mean, I love you too, Emily? Whispered, tears slipping freely now. I always have. For a moment the world seemed to stop. His face broke into the kind of smile she had never seen on him before. Wide, unguarded, full of hope. But then, just as quickly, his expression faltered. Emily, if you love me, then what do we do? Because I'm still leaving. The job's still waiting for me. The question struck her like a storm. Her chest tightened, her tears drying as fear crept back in. This wasn't just about love anymore. This was about choices, sacrifices, the kind of decisions that changed entire lives. She looked around at the half-empty room, at the boxes filled with his life, at the photo of them still lying on the table. She thought of her job, her family, her life here, and the terrifying unknown of following him. Emily's heart ached with the weight of it all. She had finally been given the love she had always wanted, only to face the possibility of losing it again. The cardboard boxes were scattered across Daniel's living room floor like little islands, each one open and waiting to swallow a piece of his life. Emily knelt on the carpet, her jeans brushing against the rough fibers as she carefully folded one of his shirts and set it neatly inside. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the window blinds, striping the room with golden lines, but somehow, everything still felt dim. Emily told herself this was just a normal Saturday. Just another weekend spent at Daniel's place. But it wasn't. Every crease she pressed into the fabric, every book she tucked into a box, reminded her of what this day really meant. Daniel was leaving. He was moving across the country, Seattle, to be exact. A new job, a new beginning. An adventure that sounded so bright and exciting when he first told her. She remembered the proud smile on his face when he had announced it. The way his eyes lit up with a mixture of nervousness and joy. She had smiled back, of course. She had. Clapped her hands and hugged him, telling him how amazing it was. And she meant it. She truly wanted the best for him. But now, sitting among half-filled boxes and stacks of his things, the reality was too sharp to ignore. Every book, every framed picture, every little object he handed her to pack felt like another reminder that he was taking himself away from her world. Do you want these books in the small box or the big one? Emily asked, her voice soft, almost cautious. Daniel looked up from across the room, where he was wrapping a lamp in bubble wrap. A loose strand of dark hair fell into his eyes, and without thinking, he brushed it away with the back of his hand. Big one, he said simply, his voice casual. But Emily noticed something. The smile he gave her afterward didn't reach his eyes. She nodded, lowering her gaze again, pretending not to notice the hollowness beneath his words. She reached for another stack of books and began to place them carefully inside the large cardboard box, but her hands weren't steady. Her fingers trembled ever so slightly, and she hoped he wouldn't notice. The silence between them was heavier than the boxes themselves. It wasn't the comfortable silence they often shared when watching a movie together, or sitting side by side in a cafe. This silence was thick, unspoken, and sharp with everything they weren't saying. Emily had known Daniel for almost 6 years. They had met in college, not in some dramatic way, just two people who ended up in the same study group. Over time, friendship had grown naturally between them. They had shared countless nights cramming for exams, countless mornings running late for class, countless small victories and disappointments. After graduation, life had scattered their friends in different directions, but somehow, she and Daniel stayed. Their lives remained intertwined, even as jobs, relationships, and cities shifted around them. And through all of it, Emily had carried a secret. She had never said it aloud, never dared to. Somewhere between their endless late-night conversations, his easy smile, and the way he always seemed to notice when she was hurting, Emily had fallen in love with him. But Daniel never gave her a reason to believe he felt the same. He dated other women, kind, smart, beautiful women. Sometimes Emily would meet them, smile politely, laugh at their jokes, and later cry quietly into her pillow. She never told him. She couldn't. Because if she did and he didn't feel the same, she risked losing the one thing she cherished most, his friendship. And now, as she packed his belongings into boxes that would soon travel miles away, she wondered if she had made a mistake keeping her heart hidden all these years. "Hey," Daniel said suddenly, breaking the silence. Emily looked up quickly, startled. He was holding up a framed photo of the two of them from a summer trip 3 years ago. Her hair was messy from the wind. His arm was slung casually over her shoulders, and they were both laughing at something that hadn't even made it into the picture. "Do you think I should take this?" he asked. Emily blinked. "Of course," she said, her throat tight. "Why wouldn't you?" Daniel smiled faintly, looking down at the picture again. "I don't know. I guess I don't want to carry too much. But I guess this one matters." Her heart ached at the way he said it, almost carelessly, as though their memories were items he could choose to keep or leave behind. She turned away quickly, focusing on the books again. "Yeah," she murmured. "It matters." The room fell back into silence, except for the occasional rustle of packing paper, or the sound of tape ripping from its roll. Emily's thoughts, however, were anything but quiet. She remembered the first time Daniel had helped her move apartments years ago. She had been overwhelmed by boxes and clutter, and he had shown up at her door with coffee and donuts, ready to work. They had spent the entire day carrying boxes up flights of stairs, laughing at the ridiculous amount of shoes she owned, and ordering greasy pizza when their arms grew too tired. He had stayed until midnight, making sure her bed was assembled, and that she wasn't left sitting on the floor. Back then, she had teased him, "You're too good to me, Daniel." And he had replied with a grin, "Someone's got to take care of you." That memory echoed now, painfully sweet, as she realized she wouldn't have him around to take care of her anymore. Daniel was humming softly to himself now, focused on taping the lamp box shut. The sound of his voice, low, familiar, wrapped around her like a blanket she didn't want to let go of. She wanted to freeze this moment, to hold it forever, before the boxes were sealed, before the goodbye was final. But time didn't freeze. It never did. Emily picked up one of his shirts, a navy blue one she had always secretly liked on him, and folded it slowly, deliberately, as if the care she put into it could somehow Make him stay. Her hands stilled as her mind whispered questions she had long buried. Did he even know? Did he ever notice the way she lingered in his presence? The way her smile always found him first in a crowded room? Did he ever wonder why she never left, no matter how many girlfriends came and went from his life? Her chest tightened. Maybe it didn't matter now. He was leaving, and she would have to accept it. The sound of tape snapping startled her back to the present. She looked up to see Daniel standing by the window, staring out through the blinds. His shoulders were tense, his jaw set. For the first time that day, he looked less like a man excited for a new adventure, and more like someone carrying a burden. Emily's lips parted, ready to ask if he was okay. But before she could, Daniel spoke, his voice low and unsteady. "You." "No," he said, still staring out the window. "This isn't easy for me either." Emily froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. She hadn't expected him to say anything like that, Dot. Her fingers tightened around the shirt in her lap, and suddenly, the room felt too quiet, too close. "What do you mean?" she asked softly, almost afraid of the answer. The shirt slipped from Emily's hands, falling softly onto the half-filled box. For a moment she thought she had imagined his words, but Daniel's voice lingered in the air, low and heavy, as if they belonged in the silence more than any packing tape or cardboard ever could. "You know," he said again, still staring. "Out the window. This isn't easy for me either." Emily blinked, her chest tightening. She had rehearsed this day in her mind so many times, packing boxes, saying goodbye, hugging him at the airport. In every version, she smiled bravely while he walked away. She had never once imagined him struggling too. Her voice came out thin, barely audible. "What do you mean?" Daniel's back was to her, his hand resting on the window frame. He didn't answer immediately. Instead he sighed, the sound rough and uneven, as though it carried months of unspoken thoughts. "I mean," he trailed off, searching for the right words. "I keep telling myself this is what I've worked for, what I wanted. A new city, a better job, a fresh start. Everyone keeps saying how lucky I am. And maybe I am. But..." He stopped again, shaking his head. Emily's pulse raced. She had seen him nervous before job interviews, before big presentations. But this wasn't nervousness. This was something else. Something deeper. But what? She asked gently. Afraid to push too hard, yet desperate to know. Daniel turned slowly, his eyes meeting hers for the first time since he'd spoken. His gaze was raw, vulnerable, nothing like the easy smiles and playful smirks she was used to. "But leaving you," his voice faltered and he swallowed hard. "Leaving you feels like I'm tearing out the best part of my life and pretending I can live without it." Emily's breath caught in her throat. For a long, suspended second, she couldn't move, couldn't think. The words hung between them like fragile glass, delicate, dangerous, waiting to shatter. She tried to speak, but her lips only parted uselessly. Finally, she managed a whisper. "Daniel." He gave a faint, humorless laugh, running a hand through his hair. "God, listen to me. I sound ridiculous." He turned back to the window, as if hiding would make the moment vanish. "Forget I said anything. I'm just stressed about the move. That's all." But Emily wasn't convinced. She knew Daniel better than anyone. She knew the difference between his nervous laughter and his real one. She knew the way his shoulders tensed when he was lying, even just to himself. Her heart was pounding so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Could it be possible? Could it be that all these years he had felt something too?